ชมเลขที่9ค่ะอาจิมาเพื่อปิยธรรมเลขที่16ค่ะ
คณิชาโกศินทร์เลขที่17ค่ะวันนี้เราจะมาสัมภาษณ์มิสเตอร์แครี่กัน
Why did you decide to be a teacher?
Well, it's very simple. My grandma was a teacher, and my mom was a high school teacher. So I kind of grew up in this kind of environment, and my mom always took me to her high school, and I was exposed to this kind of life all my life since I was a little child. So this is where I feel comfortable in an environment with teachers and students, and that's my comfort zone. So it's very simple. I inherited this from both my grandma and my mom. So I was exposed to teaching since I was a kid.
How about your opinion?
Well, people don't realize it. Being a teacher basically is the most important job if you think about it, because we prepare generations of students for their life or their careers, right? It's basically in our hands, so it is very, very important. And we have a huge responsibility as teachers, you know. It's not so simple. And also, yeah, we have this on our shoulders, the fact that we have to create generations of students who can take over all the workplaces in this country. So basically, we influence a lot the future of this country, and in general of any country. So the responsibility is very high, and also being a teacher is quite an important job.
And why you like so dedicated to teach?
Well, as I said, I was very fascinated by teaching, and I find it very nice to be able to interact with students and to be able to get their ideas. It's, you know, it's not just the students, it's not one-way communication, it's interactive communication, because you are there, you are presenting your information, but usually in the teaching process you have to have feedback, and students should interact with you. As I said, interactive communication, and you learn from them as well. It's a very interesting job, and you learn a lot of things, because the students in a classroom, they will give you different answers, right? So you can learn a lot from what they're telling you, from the way they think, and it really teaches you a very, very good lesson. So I think I could have chosen any kind of job in my life, but I think this is the most rewarding job. And the best reward as being a teacher is not getting flowers or chocolate or get people to clap their hands. The problem is, I think that the biggest reward is when you see that your students went to the right universities, and they became full adults, and you had an impact on that. You had a big influence on them, and you see them coming and saying hello to you and thanking you. That's the biggest reward. And you see that they are successful. That's the biggest reward a teacher could ever get in his or her own life. That's the biggest. Nothing compares to the pride that you get as a teacher when you see that they are successful and they made it in life. And you had, even if it's a little impact, you had that impact. And you influenced their careers, their life in general.
And what are your ways of expressing love?
Expressing love towards students. Well, you know, I have 5 kids of my own, and in the double quality of a parent and teacher, I could say that um, I I don't make such a big difference. Sometimes I find myself giving more time to the students at school than my own children. You know, they need this reference, that reference. They need it to be done very fast. Sometimes during my own time during the weekend when I'm supposed to be you know, spending the time with my kids like the whole day, I find myself caring and writing references or you know, helping my students at school. So I think when we say expressing love for my students, it's in a way I think I care a lot, and even though I don't show it sometimes, or I show it in different ways sometimes, I have to be a little bit stern, I have to be a little bit strict, and I tell the students sometimes in grade 8, I said one day, so now today I'm strict, but one day probably you will thank me for that, you know. So there are many ways of expressing love as a teacher. It's being caring and sometimes being strict, and it's all the process should go together and should be for the benefit of the students, right? So the love of a teacher for the students is when that teacher cares about every aspect of a student's life and understands and is patient, you know. Not everyone can be a teacher, you know. You can be very knowledgeable, but that doesn't make you a teacher. That doesn't mean that you have the skills to teach in a classroom. So the art of teaching and the love for the student, that comes naturally, you know, and you have to be endowed with that, and you should be able to understand your students, to be patient, and to care. That's the most important thing, to care about what's going to happen with them in the future. Because if you don't care, then you have a problem. So the love, in my opinion, love for the students, it's actually caring for their future, for what they're going to be in the future, and also when you are an educator, you care about you know, the morals that you teach, and it's not only the knowledge that you teach them, but it's also about educating them to be polite and to basically like your own children, you know. So I find myself in many situations where I sometimes, because a student has a problem, I go home and I still cannot shut down, you know, from my work, because I have that problem and I have to find a solution to solve that problem. So that's also an expression of love for the students, because you care like you would care for your own children. So that's my understanding of expressing love.